It's been a minute. I hope your 2026 is going well so far. It's been a challenging beginning of the year for us, health wise, on the personal front. We just had a lot of things going on, a lot of unexpected stuff coming up, and life gets hard that way sometimes. And one of the things that makes me think about is a story in the Bible about we all know the story of the Red Sea, whether you're a person that's grown up in the church or you've never even been to church a single day in your life, you probably know the story of Moses parting the Red Sea, taking the Israelites out of captivity, out of slavery from the Egyptians, and then they go into the wilderness. And they're in the wilderness. It's supposed to be for a short period of time. It ends up being 40 years. If my biblical recall is serving me well. But they're out here and they're getting frustrated with the way that things are going. And I want to talk about that. Also having a little pour of this Whistle Pig 18 year. This is a bottle that's a buddy of mine's, Justin. He let us borrow this for a review over on our whiskey channel and just did a review of that, and very, very good stuff. So a nice special occasion bottle. So I'm going to have a little sip of this while I reflect on some of the scripture here. And I will say that this is applicable in like an everyday format. What we're going to talk about here, we're back in Numbers 14, but it doesn't mean it doesn't apply to us today. It doesn't mean the Israelites were delivered out of slavery. It doesn't mean that doesn't apply to us today. We're going to talk about that. So cheers. Okay. Very sweet, very good. I think it's just our human nature that when things are hard, when we run into challenges, when unexpected things comes up, we want to retreat to the known, even if the known is the worst place for us to be. I think human nature also steers us away from uncomfortable moments or uncomfortable conversations, or, it doesn't matter if it's an uncomfortable conversation with a family member or if it's the discomfort of exercise and staying in shape. We want to gravitate away from those things. We want to seek comfort. It's just what we do. It's in our nature. We like being comfortable. We hate being uncomfortable. And the older I get, the more I seek comfort. I can tell you that much. Just like physical comfort in my day-to-day life. But when things get tough, when you're in seasons of sickness or seasons of uncertainty or seasons of stress or seasons of doubt or seasons of struggle, any of these seasons that you find yourself in, and we all have these, much like seasons of weather, seasons pass. And I think it's hard to realize that you're in a season that will pass. Now, if you're doing the exact same things, if you're piling up credit card debt and you keep spending money on credit, that season's probably not going to pass. That's self-inflicted. But if it's external factors, at some point, seasons do pass. And I think that's a perspective that we all need to have, rather than running to comfort or running to the known or, retreating to the things that have gotten us to where we're at out of the comfort of knowing what that situation is like. Let me use a biblical example here, and then I'll kind of relate it to our everyday life here. So, through Genesis and Exodus, the Israelite people are in slavery to the Egyptians, and then they are delivered out of that slavery. Like I said, they find themselves in the wilderness, and they're there for a really long time, much longer than they expected to be. And they're getting very upset with Moses for the way things are going. Keep in mind, these people have been in slavery for a super long time. Like, their lives were terrible. And then here at the beginning of Numbers 14, in verses 2 through 4, it says, "All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, 'If only we had died in Egypt or in this wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt? And they said to each other, we should choose a leader and go back to Egypt. So they're rebelling against Moses. They're saying, wouldn't it be better, like, let us die? Or wouldn't it be better if we just go back to Egypt? Let's go back to slavery. They are willingly wanting to choose that because they're in a season of struggle. They're in a season of uncertainty. And, some of these Old Testament stories in the Bible can feel very unrelatable to us in modern day. But I think if you make the correlation and the connection, that's actually not true at all. I think they can be very informative. Human nature is to go back to what you know. And how many times do we run back to the things that haven't served us well just because it's the known? How many, it doesn't matter what it is for you. Whatever it is that brings you comfort, whether it's, food or porn or money or whatever, all these things that we gravitate towards as a human species, and I'm speaking as a man, and I haven't looked at the metrics on the channel. I would assume mostly guys are watching this, but we seek these things of comfort rather than persisting and pushing through the season of hardship and unknown into what is on the other side. And for the Israelites, what was on the other side was the promised land. Everything was on the other side of this. And the only reason that they were in the wilderness so long was because they weren't seeking God. They were looking inwards to themselves to see how they could get through rather than leaning on God and his provisions. And it kept them in the wilderness for a lot longer. So how often do we do that? How often in a season of hardship do we go? I mean, it even could be whiskey for some people. It could be beer. It could be alcohol. It could be food. It could be beverage. It could be, if you're single, maybe it's going back to an ex that you found comfort in a season of loneliness. It could, in a marriage, it could be seeking out attention from someone that's not your partner, not your spouse. There's so many different things, or it could be porn. It could be so many different things that we, instead of sitting in the discomfort and seeking God in the discomfort, seeking God in the season of uncertainty or stress or trials and tribulations that we have, instead, we want to run back. We want to retreat into the slavery that kept us down, that kept us bound. And, I heard somebody say one time, like, you can take the Israelites out of Egypt, but you can't take the Egypt out of Israelites. You can't take the slavery that we put ourselves in out of us. We can remove ourselves from it, but that pull still exists. And this is, to me, being a person who is not prone to substance abuse. I enjoy whiskey. I don't struggle with it. I don't have any other vices as far as that goes. I mean, sugar is my biggest vice. But when it comes to substances, I am continually reminded to have empathy for people who do struggle, who do have addictions, because we all have this in our life in some form or fashion. For some people, it's substances. For other people, it's all these other things I've already talked about, that we run towards this comfort to try to dissociate and disconnect from hardships in our life. And there are pieces of time in my life where I've had these revelations, and one of the revelations that I've had in my lifetime is when some people, I'm trying to dance around this, but I'll just say it straight out. The word triggered is largely a negative term, but I actually have triggers in my life that trigger me to do good, to push forward in ways that I need to. So one of my triggers is when I start thinking that I need to tell someone what they should do. I start shoulding all over somebody. You don't need to should over anybody. You don't need to tell people what they should do, but you can make recommendations. That's all I'm doing with these videos, is sharing my personal experience, but I really try to be very careful about telling people what they should or shouldn't do. In much the same way, when I feel that urge within me to go back to my Egypts, and put a plural, Egypts, many different forms of slavery that I have put myself in over the years, I let it trigger me to understand that that's what I'm actually doing. And with that level of self-awareness, I'm able to then not go down that road, not put myself in that compromised position or what I know is going to put me back into slavery. Instead, I can sit in the uncomfortability of the circumstances and the situation. I can work that out within me and I can push through that. And the way that I do that, the way I work it out within me and the way I push through that is to look to God. I don't try to do that by my own power. That's the beauty of Jesus, is that through his grace and through his mercy, even when we mess up, even when we find ourselves in bad situations, he can deliver us out of them. And that's what this book is all about. Because this entire book is the Old Testament pointing to Jesus, and then Jesus himself showing up here on earth and delivering us from the sin and from the judgment that we deserve, because nobody's perfect, but he is, and he made that sacrifice for us. And that's a beautiful thing. And as long as you can keep that in perspective, that the hardships and the places that we have been, they don't define the future that we're headed to, but it's up to us to interrupt that cycle of wanting to go back to Egypt, instead of saying, wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt? Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to those old things that were comfortable and that were known, instead of just saying, you know what, I'm in a season of wilderness right now. I can push through this, and on the other side of it will be the promised land. It will be whatever God has for me next, if I just stay faithful and stay the course. And I think that if we can get that, if you can really grasp that if I can stay faithful and stay the course, then God has something in this season of hardship and struggle. He has something on the other side of this for me that will deliver you to the promised land, just like it did the Israelites, just like it's every hardship I've ever had in my life. There's been something on the other side. There's been an opportunity to grow through things. You go through it and you go through it. Wait, I just said that wrong. You go through it and you can grow through it if you so choose. But you're going to go through it either way. I think you might as well grow through it rather than going through it and then just retreating back to the things that didn't serve you very well in the past. And then you're going to end up going through it again. You're going to be on repeat. You're going to go through it and you're going to go through it, like I said. And you're going to go through it and you're going to go through it. And you're going to go through it and you're going to go through it until you stop and interrupt that cycle and decide to grow through it. And then you can come out the other side. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope it encouraged you. It's been a month. It's been a crazy first month of the year. I'll keep doing these videos when I have time, when I have something on my mind. I've specifically have another video on my mind that I'm going to record at some point very soon, but we don't have time for that today. I want to sit here and meditate on this. I want to meditate and make sure that I'm being conscious and self-aware, that I'm not putting myself back into slavery from the things that have held me down or cost me peace or cost me my joy. And I want to sit in seasons of discomfort, and I want to let God work in those seasons and bring me out the other side. I can't think of a better way to handle the hardships of life. So cheers. See you guys soon.